More than 2,000 years ago, a small city in Italy began a journey that would change the world forever. That city was Rome. From humble beginnings along the Tiber River, Rome grew into one of the greatest powers in human history. This is the story of conquest, power, betrayal, and glory, the story of the Roman Empire. More than 2,700 years ago, a small settlement appeared along the banks of the Tiber River. The morning sun began to crest over the rolling Italian hills, casting a golden glow upon the simple huts and the first villagers as they started their day. This humble village would one day grow into the legendary city of Rome. Watch as the modest timber dwellings gradually give way to grand stone structures and temples, marking a cinematic transformation that would change history forever. According to legend, Rome was founded by twin brothers, abandoned as babies, left to the mercy of the elements in a wild and misty landscape. The infants lay cradled by the river bank under a mysterious, heavy sky. Their names were Romulus and Remus, sons of a god and a mortal woman. A she-wolf found them and nursed them in a cave by the river. Deep within the shadows of a mossy cavern, the mythical beast provided the warmth and sustenance they needed to survive against all odds. As they grew, the brothers became strong and ambitious. In the heart of a sun-drenched forest clearing, they honed their skills and tested their limits, preparing for a destiny they could yet fully grasp. Romulus eventually killed Remus after a quarrel, becoming the sole founder of Rome. Under the blood-red hues of a tragic sunset, the fateful dispute reached its end, leaving one brother to stand alone atop the hill. Romulus built the first walls and established the city on the Palatine Hill. He watched the sunrise cast long, sharp shadows over the rising stone fortifications that would soon define the boundaries of a new empire. The first Romans were a mix of shepherds, farmers, and artisans. Rome's location was strategic, overlooking the Tiber River and trade routes. From the heights of the hill, the city's founders looked out over the winding waters, knowing they held the gateway to commerce and power. Romulus organized the city into tribes and families for governance and defense. The first Senate was formed, advising Romulus on matters of law and war. Within the quiet dignity of a stone forum, the Council of Elders deliberated on the laws that would govern their growing society. Rome quickly grew, attracting settlers from nearby towns and villages. Newcomers arrived by dusty paths and riverboats, their faces lit by the hope of a new life in this rising bastion of civilization. Romulus established religious rituals to honor the gods of the city. The air grew thick with incense as ancient priests made offerings at stone altars, seeking the favor of the heavens for their people. Festivals were held to unify the people and celebrate victories. The streets erupted in music and dance, a vibrant display of unity and joy illuminated by the soft light of a celebratory morning. The city faced constant threats from neighboring tribes and raiders. Along the newly built walls, early Roman warriors stood vigilant, their spears gleaming as they scanned the horizon for any sign of danger. Romulus led the army to defend the city and expand its territory. In disciplined formation, the soldiers marched into the shadowed forests, their shields locked and their resolve unshakable under the dramatic sky. Rome slowly transformed from a village into a powerful city-state. Romulus disappeared mysteriously, leaving the city in the hands of its people. A thick, mystical fog rolled over the Palatine Hill, and many whispered that they saw his silhouette vanish into a blinding, celestial light. The early Romans continued to honor their first king as a god. After the disappearance of Romulus, Rome continued to grow. New leaders took control of the young city. Rome was now ruled by kings who guided the city's development. Each ruler helped shape its early traditions and laws. These early kings organized the army and strengthened the city's defenses, Rome needed protection from rival tribes. Rome's population continued to rise as migrants arrived from nearby regions. The city slowly became a center of trade and power. Religion played a major role in the lives of early Romans. Temples and sacred rituals honored the gods. Rome's famous 7 hills became the foundation of the city. Each hill hosted growing communities and defenses. The city slowly developed roads connecting neighborhoods and trade routes. These paths would later become the backbone of Roman expansion. Rome's influence spread across central Italy. Neighboring tribes began to respect the rising city. One powerful culture helped shape early Roman civilization. They were known as the Etruscans. The Etruscans introduced advanced engineering and architecture. Their knowledge helped transform Rome. They also influenced Roman religion and royal ceremonies. Many traditions came directly from Etruscan culture. Rome soon built its first major public works. Bridges and temples appeared across the growing city. The kings ruled Rome for more than 2 centuries, but their power would not last forever. Some kings became corrupt and abused their authority. The Roman people slowly grew tired of royal rule. Tension between rulers and citizens continued to grow. Rome stood on the edge of political change. The final king of Rome ruled with fear and cruelty. His name was Tarquin the Proud. Tarquin ignored the will of the Roman people. His rule became increasingly oppressive. The people of Rome eventually revolted against their king. They refused to live under tyranny. The monarchy was finally overthrown. Rome would never again be ruled by a king. In 509 BC, a new political system was born. Rome became a republic. Power would now belong to elected leaders. The Roman Senate would guide the state. This new system created a balance of power. No single man would control Rome again. The Roman Republic marked the beginning of a new era. Rome was now ready to expand. Roman armies would soon march across Italy. The city's destiny was only beginning. From a small village on the Tiber River, Rome had become a rising power. Its story was far from over. The Republic would shape Rome's future for centuries. It would bring both glory and conflict. Rome now stood ready to challenge powerful enemies. The Mediterranean world would soon feel its influence. The rise of Rome had only just begun. Greater wars and leaders were yet to come. The story of the Roman Republic would change history forever. It would create one of the greatest empires the world has ever seen, and from this moment forward, Rome would begin its march toward empire, a march that would shape the world. After the legendary founding of Rome, the city entered a new phase of leadership. Rome would now be ruled by a series of kings. According to Roman tradition, 7 kings ruled the city. Each ruler helped shape Rome's early identity. The first king was Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome. He organized the army and created the first Roman Senate. Rome quickly needed more people to survive and grow. Romulus welcomed outsiders, refugees, and exiles into the city. To strengthen the city further, Rome needed families and future generations. This led to one of the most famous events in early Roman history. The Sabine tribe soon attacked Rome in retaliation, but the conflict ended in an unexpected peace. The women themselves intervened between the armies. Their actions united the two peoples into one. With peace restored, Rome continued to grow stronger. New kings followed Romulus and expanded the city. One important king was Numa Pompilius. He focused on religion and law rather than warfare. Numa created many religious traditions that Romans followed for centuries. These rituals connected the people to their gods. Later kings focused on military power and expansion. Rome began conquering nearby territories in central Italy. The Roman army became more disciplined and organized. Military strength helped Rome secure its borders. Rome also began building important infrastructure. Roads and bridges connected the city to surrounding regions. Trade expanded along the Tiber River. Merchants brought goods and wealth into the growing city. One of Rome's greatest influences came from a powerful neighboring civilization. These people were the Etruscans. The Etruscans introduced advanced engineering techniques. Their knowledge helped transform Rome into a true city. They also introduced grand architecture and ceremonial traditions. Roman kings adopted many of these customs. One major construction project was the Cloaca Maxima. It became one of the first large sewer systems in history. Another major project was the Roman Forum. It became the center of politics, trade, and public life. As Rome grew richer and stronger, its kings gained more power, but not all rulers governed wisely. The final king of Rome would become infamous for his tyranny. His name was Tarquin the Proud. Tarquin ruled without respecting Roman traditions or the Senate. His actions created deep resentment among the people. Tension between the king and the Roman people continued to rise. The city moved closer to rebellion. A shocking crime committed by the royal family ignited the uprising. It outraged the entire city. The people of Rome finally revolted against their king. They swore never to be ruled by a monarch again. Tarquin the Proud was expelled from the city. The Roman monarchy had come to an end. In 509 BC, Rome created a completely new system of government. It became the Roman Republic. Instead of kings, Rome would now be ruled by elected officials. This new system would guide Rome for centuries. The Roman kingdom had lasted over 200 years, but its legacy shaped the future of the Republic. The rise of Rome was only beginning. Soon the Republic would expand across Italy and beyond. In 509 BC, the Roman monarchy finally collapsed. The people of Rome refused to be ruled by kings ever again. A new political system was created to prevent tyranny. Rome became a republic governed by elected leaders. Instead of a king, Rome would now elect two consuls each year. These leaders shared power and commanded the Roman army. The consuls were advised by a powerful political body. This council was known as the Roman Senate. The Senate was made up of Rome's most influential families. These elite citizens were known as patricians. But most people in Rome belonged to a different social class. They were known as the plebeians. Plebeians had fewer political rights than the patricians. This inequality soon caused tension within the Republic. This conflict became known as the struggle of the orders. It would shape Roman politics for generations. The plebeians demanded greater political representation. Eventually, Rome created new officials to protect their rights. These officials were called tribunes of the plebs. They had the power to veto laws that harmed the people. The Roman Republic slowly developed a complex political system. Power was divided among several institutions. This system helped prevent any single person from gaining absolute control. Balance of power became a Roman principle. As the Republic stabilized, Rome turned its attention outward. The city began expanding across Italy. Rome fought many wars against neighboring tribes. Each victory increased its power and influence. The Roman army became one of the most disciplined forces in the ancient world. Training and organization made them formidable. Rome also built roads to connect its growing territories. These roads allowed armies and trade to move quickly. Roman engineers became famous for their skill. Bridges, aqueducts, and fortifications spread across the land. As Rome expanded, it encountered powerful enemies. One of its greatest rivals would soon emerge. That rival was the wealthy city of Carthage. conflict between these two powers would change history. The struggle between Rome and Carthage would lead to a series of brutal wars. These battles became known as the Punic Wars. By the 3rd century BC, Rome had grown into a powerful republic, but another great power already dominated the western Mediterranean. That rival was the wealthy maritime empire of Carthage. Its fleets controlled major trade routes across the sea. Tension between Rome and Carthage began over control of Sicily. The island sat at the center of Mediterranean trade. Into 64 BC, the First Punic War began. It would become one of the longest wars of the ancient world. Rome had little naval experience at the start. Carthage had ruled the seas for generations. But the Romans adapted quickly. They built massive fleets to challenge Carthage at sea. The war lasted over 20 years. Both sides suffered enormous losses. Eventually, Rome emerged victorious. Carthage was forced to surrender Sicily. But the conflict between these powers was far from over. Carthage began rebuilding its strength. A young general soon rose within Carthage's army. His name would terrify Rome. That general was Hannibal Barca. He swore an oath to fight Rome for the rest of his life. Into 18 BC, the Second Punic War began. Hannibal launched one of the boldest invasions in history. Instead of attacking by sea, Hannibal marched his army across Europe. His destination was Italy itself. To reach Rome, Hannibal had to cross the towering Alps. It was a journey few thought possible. With him marched thousands of soldiers, horses, and war elephants. The sight shocked the Roman world. Despite terrible losses, Hannibal reached Italy. The Roman Republic now faced its greatest threat. Hannibal defeated Roman armies again and again. His tactics stunned Roman commanders. One of the greatest battles took place at Cannae. Rome suffered one of the worst defeats in its history. Despite these victories, Hannibal could not capture Rome itself. The war slowly turned against him. A new Roman general changed the course of the war. His name was Scipio. Scipio carried the war directly to North Africa. He forced Hannibal to return home to defend Carthage. In 200 BC, the two legendary generals finally faced each other. The battle took place at Zama. Scipio defeated Hannibal and ended the Second Punic War. Rome emerged as the dominant power of the Mediterranean. But Rome still feared Carthage's recovery. Decades later, a final war began. The Third Punic War ended with total destruction. Carthage was burned and wiped from the map. After these wars, Rome controlled the western Mediterranean. The Republic had become a superpower. But with power came new problems. Wealth, corruption, and ambition would soon threaten the Republic. The next chapter of Roman history would bring political chaos. Powerful generals would compete for control. Soon, one man would rise above all others. His name would become legendary. That man was Julius Caesar, and his rise would transform Rome forever. By the 1st century BC, the Roman Republic was more powerful than ever. But internal tensions threatened its stability. Wealth from conquest flooded the city, but inequality between rich and poor grew dangerously. Ambitious generals began competing for power and influence. Their armies became loyal to them rather than to Rome. One of these ambitious leaders was a young nobleman, Julius Caesar. His intelligence and charisma quickly gained attention. Caesar formed a powerful political alliance known as the First Triumvirate. It included two of the most influential men in Rome. The alliance included the wealthy general Crassus and the famous commander Pompey. Together they dominated Roman politics. To gain glory and power, Caesar was given command of Roman armies in Gaul. This region covered much of modern Western Europe. For nearly a decade, Caesar fought brutal campaigns across Gaul. His victories made him one of Rome's greatest generals. His army became fiercely loyal to him. Caesar's fame and influence spread across the Republic. But back in Rome, many senators feared Caesar's growing power. They worried he might become a dictator. The Senate ordered Caesar to give up his command and return to Rome. Doing so would leave him vulnerable to his enemies. Instead of obeying, Caesar made a bold decision. He marched his army toward Rome. In 49 BC, Caesar reached a small river called the Rubicon. Crossing it would mean civil war. Caesar crossed the river and declared his rebellion. The Roman Republic was now at war with itself. Pompey and the Senate fled Rome to gather their forces. Caesar quickly captured the city without resistance. The civil war spread across the Mediterranean world. Roman armies clashed in massive battles. The decisive battle took place in Greece at Pharsalus. Caesar's forces defeated Pompey's larger army. Pompey fled to Egypt hoping to escape Caesar, but his fate was sealed. Pompey was assassinated shortly after his arrival. Caesar had become the most powerful man in Rome. Caesar returned to Rome victorious. The Senate named him dictator for life. Caesar introduced major reforms across the Republic. He reorganized the government and improved the economy. But many senators feared his growing authority. They believed he planned to become king. A conspiracy formed among Rome's elite. They believed the Republic must be saved. On the Ides of March in 44 BC, Caesar entered the Senate chamber. His enemies were waiting. The conspirators attacked him with daggers. Julius Caesar fell at the base of Pompey's statue. The death of Caesar shocked the Roman world. But instead of saving the Republic, it plunged Rome into chaos. New leaders quickly emerged to claim power. Rome would soon face another devastating civil war. One of those leaders was Caesar's adopted son. His name was Octavian. Octavian would soon change Rome forever. The age of emperors was about to begin. The Roman Republic was nearing its end. A new empire was about to rise. After the assassination of Julius Caesar, Rome was thrown into chaos. Rival factions fought for control of the Republic. Three powerful leaders formed a new alliance to restore order. This alliance became known as the Second Triumvirate. The triumvirate included Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus. Together they controlled the Roman world. The new rulers hunted down Caesar's assassins. The conspirators were eventually defeated in battle. After their victory, the triumvirs divided the Roman territories. Each leader ruled a different region. Octavian governed the western provinces. Mark Antony controlled the rich eastern territories. In the east, Mark Antony formed a powerful alliance with the Egyptian queen Cleopatra. Their partnership worried many Romans. Octavian used this alliance as propaganda against Antony. He claimed Antony had betrayed Rome. Tensions between the two leaders eventually exploded into war. Rome once again faced a massive civil conflict. The decisive battle took place near the Greek coast at Actium. It would determine the future of Rome. Octavian's fleet defeated Antony and Cleopatra in a crushing naval battle. Their forces collapsed soon after. Antony and Cleopatra fled back to Egypt, but their defeat marked the end of their power. When Octavian's forces reached Egypt, the conflict finally ended. Antony and Cleopatra took their own lives. With his rivals gone, Octavian became the most powerful man in Rome. The Republic now stood under his control. In 27 BC, the Roman Senate granted Octavian a new title. He would now be known as Augustus. Augustus became the first emperor of Rome. The Roman Empire had officially begun. Although he ruled as emperor, Augustus maintained the appearance of the Republic. Power now rested quietly in his hands. Under Augustus, Rome entered a period of stability and growth. This era would later be known as the Pax Romana. The empire expanded its borders and strengthened its armies. Roman power now stretched across vast territories. The rise of Augustus marked the birth of a new age. Rome had transformed from a republic into a global empire. With Augustus as emperor, Rome entered a period of peace and prosperity. This era would later be known as the Pax Romana. For nearly 2 centuries, the empire experienced remarkable stability. Trade, culture, and infrastructure flourished. Roman roads connected distant provinces across thousands of miles. These roads allowed armies and merchants to travel quickly. Roman engineers built massive aqueducts to supply cities with fresh water. These structures remain marvels of ancient engineering. Cities across the empire grew larger and wealthier. Roman architecture spread from Britain to North Africa. The Roman army protected the empire's vast borders. Legions were stationed across distant provinces. Each legion was disciplined, organized, and highly trained. Their strength made Rome nearly unstoppable. Trade networks connected Europe, Africa, and Asia. Roman merchants transported goods across the Mediterranean. Exotic products arrived in Rome from distant lands. Silk, spices, and precious metals filled the markets. Rome itself became the largest city in the ancient world. Its population may have reached 1 million people. Entertainment played a major role in Roman life. Massive arenas hosted spectacular public events. One of the most famous structures was the Colosseum. It could hold tens of thousands of spectators. Gladiators fought fierce battles in the arena. These brutal spectacles fascinated Roman audiences. Public baths became social centers of Roman cities. Citizens gathered there to relax, exercise, and discuss politics. Education and philosophy flourished throughout the empire. Roman culture blended influences from Greece and other civilizations. Emperors continued expanding the empire's borders. Roman legions pushed deeper into Europe and the Middle East. At its height, the Roman Empire surrounded the Mediterranean Sea. The Romans proudly called it Mare Nostrum. The empire stretched across 3 continents. It ruled over tens of millions of people. But beneath the prosperity, hidden problems slowly grew. Political instability would soon threaten Rome again. The golden age of Rome would not last forever. A period of crisis was approaching. After centuries of power and prosperity, the Roman Empire entered a dangerous new era. Historians call it the crisis of the 3rd century. Political stability began to collapse. Emperors were now rising and falling with alarming speed. Many emperors were chosen by the army other than the Senate. Military power now decided who ruled Rome. Most emperors ruled for only a few years. Many were assassinated by their own soldiers. In just 50 years, more than 20 emperors ruled the empire. Few of them died peacefully. At the same time, new enemies attacked Rome's borders. Germanic tribes crossed into Roman territory. Roman legions were forced to defend multiple frontiers at once. The empire was stretched dangerously thin. In the east, a powerful new enemy emerged. The Persian Empire challenged Roman dominance. The Roman Emperor Valerian led an army to confront the Persians. The battle would end in disaster. Into 60 AD, Valerian was captured by the Persian king. It was the first time a Roman emperor had been taken prisoner. The humiliation shocked the Roman world. Confidence in imperial leadership collapsed. As chaos spread, parts of the empire began to break away. Regional leaders declared their own rule. In the west, a breakaway state known as the Gallic Empire formed. Several provinces abandoned Rome's authority. In the east, another power rose in the city of Palmyra. Its ruler would challenge Roman control. The ruler of Palmyra was the powerful Queen Zenobia. She conquered large parts of the Eastern Empire. Zenobia's forces captured Egypt and other key provinces. Rome was now losing control of its territories. At this moment, the Roman Empire was nearly divided into three parts. The crisis seemed unstoppable. But a new emperor soon rose to power. His mission was to reunite the empire. That emperor was Aurelian. He would become one of Rome's greatest military leaders. Aurelian launched campaigns across the empire. One by one, the breakaway states were defeated. He defeated the Palmyrene Empire and captured Queen Zenobia. The eastern provinces returned to Roman control. Soon after, Aurelian crushed the Gallic Empire in the west. The Roman Empire was reunited once again. To protect the capital, Aurelian built massive defensive walls around Rome. These walls still stand today. The empire had survived its greatest crisis, but its problems were far from over. Economic troubles and political instability continued. The empire needed deeper reforms. A new emperor would soon attempt to rebuild the empire. His reforms would change Rome forever. That emperor was Diocletian. His rule would transform the structure of Roman power. Diocletian divided power among multiple rulers. The empire was now governed by a new system. These reforms temporarily restored stability, but they also changed the nature of Roman rule. The empire had survived the crisis of the 3rd century. Yet another transformation was about to begin. After the reforms of Diocletian, the Roman Empire was ruled by multiple emperors, but this system quickly created new rivalries. Power struggles erupted across the empire. Armies began supporting different leaders. One of these rising leaders was Constantine. He was the son of a respected Roman general. In the year 306 AD, Constantine was proclaimed emperor by his troops. A new chapter in Roman history had begun. But Constantine was not the only claimant to power. Several rival emperors controlled different regions. One of Constantine's greatest rivals was the Emperor Maxentius. Their conflict would soon lead to war. In 312 AD, Constantine marched toward Rome, his army prepared for a decisive confrontation. Before the battle, Constantine reportedly saw a mysterious vision in the sky. The symbol he saw would change history. The message was simple: conquer under this sign. Constantine ordered the symbol painted on his soldiers' shields. The two armies met at the famous Battle of the Milvian Bridge. The fate of Rome would be decided there. Constantine's forces defeated the army of Maxentius. The rival emperor drowned while trying to escape. With this victory, Constantine became the ruler of the Western Empire. His power continued to grow. Soon after, Constantine issued a revolutionary decree. It would change the religious landscape of the empire. In 313 AD, Constantine proclaimed the Edict of Milan. Christianity was now legal within the empire. For centuries, Christians had been persecuted by Roman authorities. Now they could practice their faith openly. Constantine increasingly supported the Christian faith. Churches began appearing across the empire. But religious disagreements also grew within Christianity. Constantine sought to unify the faith. In 325 AD, Constantine called the famous Council of Nicaea. Church leaders gathered to resolve disputes. The council helped define important Christian beliefs. It became a turning point in religious history. Constantine also transformed the geography of the empire. He planned to build a new imperial capital. The new capital would rise in the east. It would become one of the greatest cities in history. This new city was named Constantinople. It would later become the center of a new Roman world. Constantinople quickly became one of the richest cities in the empire. Trade flowed through its ports. Constantine ruled the empire for more than 3 decades. His reign reshaped Roman history. By the end of his life, Christianity had become a powerful force in the empire. Roman society was changing forever. In 337 AD, Constantine died after a long reign. His legacy would shape centuries of history. The empire he left behind was stronger in some ways, yet new challenges were already emerging. The balance between East and West was beginning to shift. The empire would soon divide permanently. The Western Empire faced increasing pressure from barbarian invasions. Its future looked uncertain. The next chapter would bring the final struggles of Rome in the West. The fall of an empire was approaching. For centuries, the Roman Empire had defended its borders against outside threats. But new waves of migrating tribes began moving toward Roman lands. These tribes were often called barbarians by the Romans. Many were searching for land, safety, and opportunity. One powerful group was the Goths. Their arrival would challenge Roman power. In 376 AD, thousands of Goths crossed the Danube River into Roman territory. They were fleeing another terrifying enemy. That enemy was the fierce leader Attila the Hun and his warriors. The Huns were expanding across Europe. The Roman government allowed the Goths to settle inside the empire, but corruption and mistreatment soon led to rebellion. Tensions exploded into open war. Gothic forces marched against the Roman army. In 378 AD, the armies met at the Battle of Adrianople. It became one of Rome's worst military disasters. The Roman army was destroyed. Even the emperor was killed during the battle. The defeat shocked the Roman world. It proved that the empire was no longer invincible. Soon after, new barbarian groups entered Roman territory. The empire's borders were becoming impossible to defend. In 410 AD, a shocking event occurred. The city of Rome was attacked for the first time in centuries. The attackers were led by the Gothic king Alaric. His army marched directly into the ancient capital. For 3 days, the city was looted. The sack of Rome shocked the entire ancient world. Although Rome survived the attack, its prestige was deeply damaged. The empire seemed increasingly fragile. Meanwhile, other tribes established kingdoms inside former Roman lands. The western provinces were slipping away. The Vandals captured large territories in North Africa. They soon controlled important trade routes. In 455 AD, the Vandals launched another shocking attack. They sailed directly toward Rome. The Vandals entered the city and looted it again. Rome suffered another devastating sack. By now, the Western Empire had lost much of its power. Its army and economy were weakening. The eastern half of the empire remained strong, but the west was collapsing. Roman generals increasingly relied on barbarian mercenaries. Many of them would later seize power themselves. Political chaos returned to the imperial court. Emperors were now weak and short-lived. The once mighty empire was now only a shadow of its former power. Its survival was uncertain. In 476 AD, the final chapter would arrive. The Western Roman Empire was about to fall. The last emperor of the West was Romulus Augustus. His reign would be very short. A powerful Germanic leader rose against him. His name was Odoacer. Odoacer marched on the imperial capital. The Roman government had little power left to resist. In 476 AD, Romulus Augustulus was forced to abdicate. The Western Roman Empire had officially ended. After more than 1,000 years of history, the Western Empire was gone, but the legacy of Rome would endure forever. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire came to an end. Yet the influence of Rome did not disappear. For centuries, Rome had shaped the political and cultural world of Europe. Its legacy would continue long after its fall. Roman law became the foundation of many legal systems. Its ideas still influence modern governments. The Latin language spread across the empire. Over time, it evolved into several modern languages. Languages such as Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese all grew from Latin roots. These languages are known as the Romance languages. Roman engineering also left a lasting mark on the world. Roads, bridges, and aqueducts survived for centuries. Many Roman roads are still visible today. Some even form the basis of modern highways. Roman architecture influenced buildings across Europe. Arches, domes, and columns became iconic designs. Even modern government systems were inspired by Rome. Concepts like senates and republics trace their roots to Roman politics. Christianity also spread throughout the empire. It would become one of the dominant religions in the world. Although the West had fallen, the Eastern Empire survived. Its capital remained the great city of Constantinople. This eastern state continued Roman traditions for another 1,000 years. Historians later called it the Byzantine Empire. Roman knowledge and culture survived through the Byzantine world. Ancient texts and ideas were preserved there. Roman influence also shaped medieval Europe. Many kings admired and tried to recreate the power of Rome. In the year 800 AD, a new emperor was crowned in Western Europe. His rule symbolized a continuing legacy of Rome. That ruler was Charlemagne. His empire claimed to continue the traditions of ancient Rome. For centuries, rulers across Europe looked back to Rome for inspiration. Its power and prestige remained unmatched. Roman ideas helped shape modern civilization. From law to architecture, its influence is everywhere. Even today, millions of people visit the ruins of ancient Rome. They stand as reminders of a powerful past. The story of Rome is more than the rise and fall of an empire. It is the story of a civilization that shaped the world. Empires may fall, but their legacy can last forever. And few legacies are as powerful as that of Rome.